bit more reflective of what the needs are here in 2022. The next column indicates the governor's position. The governor really took no position on local government aid. To be fair, it's not a budget year, but at the same breath, we have a sizable budget surplus. Now is the time to probably invest in our local units of government, but he didn't take a position. The House of Representatives was pretty receptive to our formula suggestion, to go so far as to include it in their omnibus tax bill. Representative Liz Lagarde was a key player in that. Again, we were asking for an additional $90 million in new money, and the House provided $34 in their omnibus bill. So the purple line there indicates what you would have received should their proposal had passed. The Senate position really was no position. We ran into a little bit of trouble with some of the tax chairs in the Senate. One of the beauties about the LGA formula is that it's not political. It doesn't pick winners and losers. It's simple math. Well, it's actually complicated math, but it's math. And it's not political at all. It never has been. But as you can imagine, things are polarized, and it even transcends into this discussion as well. You can't have a good LGA formula proposal without putting some additional monies into Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's just the way the formula works. If the city has unmet need, they're going to get additional funds. We've got to figure out a way around that with those folks, and we'll continue to do that. But the good news, if there is any here, is the blue line. Once the Senate and the House came together in conference committee with their omnibus bills, the blue line represents what they agreed to. And both sides agreed that, yep, it's time to update the formula. We include that in our conference report. We can't agree to the 90, we can't agree to the $34 million, but they did appropriate $30 million. So that was part of the conference committee report 2 days before adjournment. And then that committee stopped meeting. And that bill never made it to the floor of the House or the Senate, which is incredibly unfortunate. And the yellow line indicates, again, current law, which is what you're kind of stuck with for fiscal 23. But we have a good formula. We have a lot of the groundwork is laid. I think as we go forward into the next session, I would be very surprised if LGA wasn't at the top of the list for the CGMC. All of our cities are struggling right now with inflation and costs of employees, et cetera, and getting those monies out to local units of government is only going to help keep property taxes down, and we've got to get that done. So I'm sure that will be near the top of our list of priorities. It was an unfortunate session from the perspective that too many things got left undone. There was so much that could have been done, and it's just very frustrating, I think, for everybody involved. Some folks have asked about, is there potential for a special session? And I'm purely going on speculation here, but there's probably a very narrow window right after the August primary where they could do something. I wouldn't hold your breath for that. I just don't feel like it's going to happen, but we'll see. The good news is they'll come back in January. It's a budget year. They have to do something. They have to pass the budget by the end of May, so we'll see some work get done. But it's also an election year for the entire legislature, and we'll have about 50 new faces, which is a lot. That's about 25% of the whole legislature. And it's going to be very different and very challenging just from the educational standpoint of all of these components. So that's kind of my short version, if you will, and I'm trying to keep on track with the timeline, but I'd be also happy to answer any questions that you have.
Well, I see no one else. Okay. Mr. Simonson, thank you for coming. It's very important, that you as a lobbyist for the league is very, very important moving forward. So I appreciate you coming forward and providing this information. I know how difficult it is, and as you do your work, as our lobbyist does their work, it's the same thing. But I am pleased that there was no reduction in the local government aid, as you indicated at the bottom of this front page, where the City of Virginia will receive $6,049,573 in local government aid. And if you look at the formulas of all the other cities, again, we're very fortunate to have that opportunity to get that. And the support from the legislature with respect to the formula with the math included in that, it's for an increase. We certainly utilize that in a very efficient and appropriate manner. And without this local government aid, we couldn't operate this city with the services that we currently provide to our constituents. So thanks for working hard on the local government aid and continue to strive to ensure that, it's solid and moving forward. So thank you for that. Any questions, comments to date on Mr. Simonson's presentation? Please continue. Thank you.
Well, that is, without continuing into a lot of details, there's a lot of information in that packet that you certainly can read at your leisure. But I do want to stress the importance of this LGA formula, and I do want to really stress the importance as we go forward about what's going to happen after the November election. And this is a concern really across the entire state. As we bring in a lot of new legislators, there's a fair amount of education that has to take place. And you're going to be in a position where, at the very least, you're going to have a new senator, right? That's a given. And we want to make sure that they understand what issues are important to the city and to the folks that live here, and especially around issues like local government aid, which is extremely complicated, but also so incredibly important. So looking for help with that, of course, as we get past the end of November. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and I just want to say once again, flattery and Hood has done some yeoman's work, and we really benefited from the representation that you have, so we appreciate that very much. Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Okay, we'll move to item 7, which is unfinished business. 3 standing items on the agenda. First is 7.1, the property located at 410 5th Street South. And once again, thank you for coming, Mr. and Mrs. Kingsley, with respect to your interest in this property as we try to move forward with any resolution to that property located at 410. So I would ask our city attorney, Mr. Lindsay, is there any unforeseen or any developments moving forward?
Thank you, Mayor. From my perspective, there's no new developments. I do understand that we're looking for an independent inspector to go out and undertake an inspection of that property.
Very good, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the council at this point? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, when Colleen was at the last meeting, we had discussed the, again, blight issue regarding the grass around the house, and we had, I guess I had requested a letter be sent or a fine be assessed. Did that take place?
The blight officer did send a letter,
Okay,
part of the blight.
okay, thank you,
Photos were taken and, yes.
thank you.
So thank you for that question, Councilor Paulson. So I would ask Mr. Kingsley if you're willing to come forward and has anything been done in that regard? And what are your questions or comments today?
Just a couple quick questions. I know you had mentioned trying to set up a interim inspection. Have we scrubbed that at this point? Because we're like 29 days out from day 0. So I would be fine with it if you did, but any more contact regarding that?
I haven't had any additional contact with the property owner or their attorney. That being said, I haven't scrubbed the idea of an interim inspection at this point. I think having something done prior to day 0 is preferable.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense at this point. And again, just for an update, absolutely nothing's changed in the property. Since the blight request, they trimmed a little bit, but we still have 8-foot weeds around there. At this point, I just accept that that's what the property's going to look like at day 0, and hopefully then we act upon it.
And I know it's not much consolation to and Mrs. Kingsley. I drove by there again today, and like I do every weekend, but again today prior to the council meeting, and it's just disgusting. So, and frustrating and disappointing, all those things. So,
Well, hopefully we're getting close to resolution.
29 days to showtime.
Betcha.
Yeah, very good.
That's all I have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kingsley.
Thank you.
Anything else on 410 5th Street South? Okay, we'll move on to item 7.2 is the clinic lease. Britt, do we have any information, or Brian, do you have any information about the status? Are we have a scheduled meeting? Are we looking to do so, or for anything coming forward?
Nope, and I had mentioned in the email to the council that we are working with Encompass Engineers, who were the engineers that were involved in the lawsuit we had when the building was built regarding the windows that were placed improperly. There is a few things that left that we need to do, so Encompass is going there Friday to do one more look through to make sure that what we need to finish, that insurance claim project, and then let Ascension know what's left to be done and what's left in the insurance claim fund. So that
So we do have Encompass Engineering moving forward with taking a look at what repairs need to be done in consort with the previous lawsuit that we had with the contractors regarding the condition of that building. And we do have some funds held in reserve to help accommodate at least some of that repair work, correct? Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from the councilor with respect to that moving forward? Councilor Bearable.
I hate to bring this up, but I was pretty much involved when Mr. Budek was here with him on his stuff with the company that was looking and did the engineering work on the repairs that need to be done. There was a huge shortage of funds. Is that still there, Britt? A huge shortage of funds, and we got to figure it out?
I won't know until after they do this report tomorrow, on Friday.
Okay. When will we see that report?
I'm assuming a couple weeks after the inspection.
Okay, all right. So we're doing another inspection?
We're doing an inspection on Friday with Encompass
Why
Engineers.
do we need to do a second one? It was thoroughly done the first time, more than
Done
one.
in 2014. The prices have drastically changed, and we
Well, the
need to take a
prices
look.
have, I understand that. But the concept and what we needed to repair hasn't changed unless it's gotten worse.
Nope, they've actually done a few things as well on their side, so we need to take a look and see what's been done and where we're at.
Okay, all right, okay.
If you
So
recall, the windows were reset, so there
I
is no more
understand,
leaking.
I understand
It
that.
was the repair on the outside and the inside where the water had damaged the siding and then the sheetrock on the inside.
Okay, all right. I'll be waiting for that report then, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions regarding the clinic lease as we move forward? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 7.3, which is the rental code ordinance. John is not available this evening, but this rental code ordinance is moving forward. And do we have any status report that you can convey at all, Britt, in that regard?
I do know that the final public hearing they had on the 30th was one of the better ones. They had a lot of attendance and a lot of really good input that they're looking to incorporate into the rental code.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward for the final draft to be presented to the council for a discussion and potential adoption or some changes. So thank you for that, Britt. Any other questions or comments about item 7.3, the rental code ordinance? Seeing none, we'll move to item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1, the planning and zoning meeting that was held on July 5th, 2022. Item 8.1A, request from Wendy Tamaro at 540 11th Street South, Virginia, Minnesota. Request to approve the variance request from Wendy Tamaro to build a 6-foot fence along the western edge of the property located at 540 11th Street South. And that was recommended to approve on planning and zoning. I'm looking for a motion for that. Moved by Councilor Freely. Is there support? Support by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Bearable.
Well, does this include, since the original report said it was on city property, are we going to do an easement then on the city property? That didn't come up, and
That's the next step.
is that the next step? Maybe I didn't,
Not here.
oh, not here, okay. All
We're
right,
approving the variance
so
first.
the variance is just for the height then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Is there any further discussion with respect to that? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.2 is to approve to block off the bottom section of the road at Alcock Park on Sunday, August 7th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the local 49er picnic in the park. Earlier in the consent agenda, we approved the temporary liquor license for this event. Looking for council action. Councilor Johnson.
So moved to block
Move.
off the southern portion.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. And an additional item on the agenda, addendum was under item 8.3, is adopt the resolution to apply for and accept funds from the Department of Iron Range Resources for a commercial redevelopment grant for demolition at 314 and 316 Chestnut Street in Virginia.
So moved.
Move to move the resolution forward by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be recusing myself since I am the owner of those properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Paulson recuses. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. With one
I recuse.
recuse, and motion passes. All in favor signify by saying aye. We did that already. Thank you. All right. Item 9, committee reports. Item 9.1, the committee of the whole meeting that was held on July 5th, 2022. And we'll turn this part of the meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. At the July 5th Committee of the Whole meeting, Mr. Tom Tamaro was present to discuss the fence replacement at 540 11th Street South. We had a good discussion and did advise Mr. Tamaro to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and finish the variance request. And then we also had a motion to add the easement request to the council agenda for discussion of the easement for 540 11th Street South to put the fence approximately 3 feet over the property line onto city property.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you. Was the application, was there an application, I don't know if it's an actual application to discuss the easement?
The easement comes from the city, not from Planning and Zoning Commission. So it's just an action from the council to direct us to create, it's actually a legal form that we have to create, kind of like an agreement.
So no action step is needed on the behalf of the property owner? It's within the council?
Just for the council to decide, do we want to grant him an easement or not?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you. So then I guess my question is, what does that look like for the city? Where are the liabilities on a fence that's 3 feet on or 2.7 feet on city property? Right, and we're talking about the easement into the right-of-way of a street. So, and I know that's where the fence was, and I know there's a building on the corner that is also 2.5 feet on the right-of-way. So I guess I want to make sure that we're making sure that if something were to happen, the document is clear on what the property owner's responsibility are, what the city is, and do we know what's underneath that 2.5 feet? And has that work also been done about what the research of what's there? Because I'd want to know that before doing anything like that.
Brian Lindsay, our city attorney. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor, as far as the liability piece of it, one of the important features or one of the benefits that the city can gain by granting a formal easement is that we can include language within the easement document that reminds the homeowner or the property owner that anything that they construct and maintain there, they'll be solely responsible for, and so that the city doesn't take on any additional liability. As it relates to what's immediately under that area where that fence is, I can't answer that question. I trust that the property owner, before they do any work or development, would use the 811 service and call before they dig, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. Back to Counselor Paulson, I guess, for a follow-up question, and then over to Counselor Bearable. Counselor
Thank you, Mayor.
Paulson.
How often do we get these types of easements that come forward or easement requests? Or how often has it?
If I may.
Please, Brian.
Counselor, this would be the first request for an easement of this type that I've handled on behalf of the city of Virginia since I've been here. I know that in some other cities, it's not a completely uncommon request for these types of easements, although the more common and unfortunate thing is that a lot of times the requests aren't made, people just build so actually receiving a request like this is a benefit to the city so that we know and can control the liabilities in those areas.
And as I understand it, and I guess I'd like to expound a little bit if it's okay,
Yeah,
Mayor.
please, Councilor
Is that during one of our windstorms, the fence got basically knocked over, and where the existing holes are is where it's basically been forever. And so from what I can see is that the holes were already existing, so they're not really digging into anything different. And by shortening the actual length of the fence, it actually creates a better viewpoint coming in and out of the alley for safety. But in terms of like when the street sweeper would come, or not street sweeper, but the sidewalk street sweeper or the sidewalk plow, I don't think, because there's a little hill there, I don't think that would impact anything at all from what I can see. So I know if we don't get many easement requests, I think this is one that it would make sense to grant. Thank you.
Thank you. And from my perspective, before we go to Councilor Bearable, it's an existing fence that's been there for a long time. If it was a request for a new fence asking to encroach on the city property, that might be a different story moving forward. But we have a grandfathered system in there as well. So I'm fully supportive of this easement moving forward. Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, I'm in support of this moving forward also. I've been here a long time too, and the only easements we have are the other way around, where the city has easements through private property all the time, and we have tons of those in the city where it might be a water line, gas line, who knows what is going through private property, and those easements are still, city has to end up paying, but in this case, it would be reversed. If there's anything that has to happen, the homeowner would have to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm sure there'll probably be a motion here moving forward, and within that motion, follow the rules and what's associated as recommended by our city attorney moving. I understand that Mr. Tamaro understands that, so as long as all the legal guidelines are followed, I don't see an issue here. So looking for additional questions from the council or some council action regarding this easement request.
Mayor, to speed things up here, I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the city to put together the legal documents for the easement for the fence at, 540 11th Street South, is that the correct address? And then bring it back as soon as they can. It'll probably take longer than the next council meeting, but I'm not sure on that. Just when they need to. Can they get it done by the next council meeting? We can. Okay, so that's my motion to move forward with the easement, with the proper legal documents for the city.
Very good. So your motion is to approve the easement request, provided that the proper documents are presented for final approval from the city. Thank you. Is there support? Right, correct.
Support, Mayor.
Moved by Councilor Bearable and supported by Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. Will this easement then include the building that's on the corner, so that it's, I'm looking long-term solution, because then my next question is it just for this owner, or are we creating an easement that's going to be in perpetuity, and anybody, because I can see this, when this owner sells, there's going to be, there will have to be a it's fallen out of my head, survey, there we go. And I don't want this to be coming up again and having that be a barrier to selling that property in the future.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Part of that would be a disclosure upon sale, correct? But I'll let you, would you please answer that question for Councilor Johnson? Brian, thank you.
Absolutely, Mayor. Councilor, so typically an easement that we would create like this in this context would follow one of two courses. Number one, and generally runs in perpetuity with the land, so it would be there forever. The other thing that we can do in a situation like this is we can tie the easement to the use, and basically say, look, the easement is to allow for a fence to be constructed and maintained within the area of the easement. Should that use ever be abated or ever cease to exist, then the easement too would cease to exist. But typically, these are created in perpetuity.
Counselor Johnson?
I guess I would want to make sure that whatever we're going to do, it would, if we're going to set a precedent for future easements, that it's consistent. Because my concern would be that the next property owner wants to build something next to that fence and starts digging, and now there's a more permanent structure along that line, but we have an easement. So for me, I'm leaning more towards the fence-only kind of easement as opposed, and then when that happens, if the fence falls down again, then everybody knows what's going to happen next. That's just my personal opinion on that.
Thank you.
Please.
And Counselor, we do specify what can be maintained within the easement. So just the creation of an easement doesn't create, for lack of a better phrase, a free-for-all within that 3-foot area. It is 3 feet for the construction and maintenance of a fence only.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. Thank you, Brian. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
Just
Counselor Baraboo.
one quick thing, Counselor Johnson. This would have to be recorded at the homeowner's expense at the county, this easement on their legal documents for their residents. Am I correct on that, Brian? So and that would be at the expense of the homeowner for that fee. It's not very expensive to do, but you got to update the record for that property.
Correct. The easement document, to be properly completed, should be recorded, and the recording cost is $50.
No, that's just to make it legal for transfer if it ever sells.
Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tamaro. Okay.
At the Committee of the Whole meeting on July 5th, Mr. Matt Reeder, engineer of record, was present to discuss the 2023-2025 street project. It was moved and supported at the meeting to approve the resolution ordering the project, the 2023-2025 street infrastructure improvement project. However, I need to ask the council to hold off on approving this. We need to redo the hearing due to a publication error. I do not need any action on this motion at this time.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item. Item 9.1C is to approve the quote for televising the sanitary sewer lines for the 2023 street project with Nelson Sanitation for the price of $11,295.50.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson.
So moved.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the professional services agreement with SCH for the 2023-2025 street project.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was also moved and supported to approve the resolution to enter into a master partnership contract with the Minnesota Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the hiring of a single rural EMT, Luke Grolke.
So moved.
Moved by, there's two moves there. So hopefully if it's okay if we move by Counselor Paulson and support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the resolution to increase the head judge and election judge wages.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Brian Silver, Park and Recreation Director, was present to discuss the request that was received from Dave Gunderson, tennis professional, regarding the renaming of the Tennis for All facility. The Parks and Recreation Commission referred to the council after the public comment period as required for the renaming of city park building policy. It was moved and supported to approve renaming the Tennis for All building as the George A. Erickson Tennis and Pickleball Center.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Counselor Paulson to approve. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
We got a couple here. So support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And they have reassured me that there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony when they have the signage complete. So
Very good. Look
they'll
forward
let
to
us know
that.
when that is, yes. We had discussion regarding RLS 11, which is the property that is around Iron Trail Motors Event Center. That it's actually the whole entire block from 9th Avenue to 12th Avenue, from 8th Street to 5th Street. It was moved and supported to allow staff to develop the proper resolution and paperwork for the split of parcels in RLS 11.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Brian Silver also discussed that the YMCA in Mount Iron will be closing on July 31st, 2022. After discussion, it was moved and supported to approve the cancellation of the professional service agreement with Masabi Family YMCA effective immediately.
Moved by Counselor Paulson,
I will move, Mayor. Thank you.
supported by Counselor Beyondich. Thank you. Further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
I will not be supporting this. I think that they should be submitting their notice to us. I don't think that we should be terminating. We don't want it terminated as, I don't want it terminated as the general picture. I think they need to be there, because if it's effective immediately, that means tomorrow, who's going to be using the equipment there? I also know that they did take out automatic membership dues for the month of July, so there are still people who are paying to utilize that service. So I will not be supporting the immediate termination of this contract.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Johnson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? First, Counselor Freely, and then over to Counselor Bearable. Counselor Freely.
Has Brian Silver talked about any options in regard to, I mean, like if we go to a city employment, I mean, this could be a significant increase in costs for the oversight of this facility. Or are we looking at another independent contractor to take over that? Or we don't know what we're doing? I'm a little concerned too if this might be premature with people that are still utilizing the facility. I'm still kind of undecided in terms of whether this is the right thing to do at this point in time.
Before we go to Counselor Bearable and Counselor Paulson, I'm going to support the cancellation of the professional services. The word immediately maybe should be at the at the end of the month when they terminate their services over at the YMCA. So we'll have to make an adjustment on how we move forward with that. But how can we have the YMCA operating this facility when they don't no longer operate the YMCA? They're not operating any of their facilities, and that's part of this agreement. And it's our professional service agreement with them. I share the concern that Councilor Johnson has with NU with respect to that, but they're not going to be able to provide the service anyway after the end of the month. So if the word immediately needs to be changed to to mirror the closing of the YMCA in Mountain Iron, I'm good with that as well. So thank you all. Councilor Bearable and then Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, I am not going to support this either. I brought up the point that there's a 60-day notice. Why would you terminate something earlier than the 60-day notice? There can be liabilities that the YMCA may have to fund and repay to the city over this issue. We don't know all the issues of what money is outstanding, where it is, what it is. We still don't know what Duluth is going to do with the YMCA to help up in this area. So I can't support it. I'm concerned about our loss of stuff that we may be able to go after the YMCA in another fashion if we're out dollars. We don't know that at this point. So I can't support it right now.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Last time we had this long discussion, our city attorney wasn't not here, but I was under the, I guess, my own assumption, Brian, that this agreement is specifically, well, it says it's with the Iron Trail Motors Event Center Professional Services Agreement between the City of Virginia and the Mesabi Family YMCA. Now, the Mesabi Family YMCA is going to cease to be in operation as of the 31st, so this contract, regardless of how we move forward, whether it's another independent contractor, whether it's Duluth, whether it's run by city employees, this contract needs, in fact, to be terminated because the entity no longer will be existing. So that was my point in, there's no entity that's going to be in 60 days or going forward in the future to provide those services. And the agreement is with, the legal agreement is with the Mesabi Family YMCA, not with the Duluth YMCA or not with YMCA Corporation or what have you. And I think we need to have another conversation about how we want to move forward with that fitness center space. But this is not transferable. This is a legal binding contract with the city and the Mesabi Family YMCA specific. So am I correct that this contract needs to be terminated regardless because they will cease to exist as a business entity?
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm looking through here. So it is true that after the Mesabi YMCA ceases to exist, there is no one that can fit the role and can perform under this contract. And while there is a 60-day termination notice, we are aware that they're no longer going to be an ongoing functioning entity. And with that knowledge, we have the ability to go out and find alternative means. And whether it's at the end of the month that this is canceled or immediately that it's canceled, ultimately, the YMCA doesn't have the ability to assign the contract or assign its rights and obligations under the contract to any other entity without our permission. And so essentially, we're in a search pattern or searching for alternatives in any event. And so as far as liability that would accrue to the city on taking an action to terminate this agreement, I don't think that that liability is very high, given the circumstance that one way or another, as of August 1st, we would be in, this contract would no longer be executory because there'd be no party on the other side of it.
Thank you for that clarification. Want to please continue, Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say that I would amend my motion to mirror their termination date of the 31st of this month.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion already for that? Okay, Counselor Beyondich.
And I would also amend my second. I was going to bring that up, that if we just bring it to the termination date of that contract, that would be fine with me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is to mirror that. So thank you. A motion in the second. Motion by Counselor Paulson, second by Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion? You had some more comments, Counselor Barrett?
Well, I still have, I still have the one comment. There's still assets and liabilities with that building and stuff if we get hung out to dry. I can go along with the 60 days if it comes up there and for the termination date, but not before that, because if something were to happen, there's still assets at that building and stuff we can go after if we end up losing dollar bills through their contract. And, people don't understand that you can go after anything when stuff like this happens. I've seen it happen in the strangest cases you cannot believe. But I'll go along with the 1st of August, because that does give us the 60 days then.
Okay, thank you. And the contract does say they're providing and managing the facility. All the equipment is owned by the city. We're leasing it. There's no liability there in that regard. It's only the management portion of that. And so it has been moved and supported to terminate the contract with the Mesabi Family YMCA to mirror their closing on July 31st. Is that correct? 2022. So that's the motion and the second. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
So I guess my question is, they're closing the facility on the 31st. Does that mean on the 31st, there's absolutely no board, no nothing? I guess that's where I'm at is we did not get a letter from them specifically to the city saying anything about their contract. So I think we're being preemptive, and I'm not comfortable with that. I will still not support the motion at this time.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, that brings
Councilor
up,
Baraboo.
that brings up a good point that Councilor Johnson mentioned. We did not get a letter from their board of termination, did we? Who do we get that? Who do we get it from, or is it just by word of mouth?
We got a phone call from the board
A
chair.
phone call isn't do it for me. I want their board to specifically, because board has liabilities. All boards have liabilities. They have insurance for it. So I'm gonna still say no on this, even though I said I would change my vote, because we need a formal letter from their board that they're terminating. The ones that run that facility, not individuals and not phone calls.
Thank you, Councilor Baraboo. Has been moved and supported to terminate effective July 31st, 2022, to mirror their announcement that they are going to be closing the Family YMCA, Mesabi Family. So any further discussion? Hearing it's Councilor Beyondich.
Britt, would you be able to reach out to them to verify that, so we can get it in writing?
It was published on Facebook from them that they are closing on July 31st.
And it also was in the newspaper.
Correct.
So,
We'll reach out to them and ask them for formal.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, okay, has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Friedlieb? No. Paulson?
Yes.
Beyondich? Johnson?
No.
Barancelli? Cuffey?
Yes.
Baraboo?
No.
Is it 4-3?
Correct.
That pass? Okay, thank you. All right. Next item, please.
Thank you. Item 9.1K was a motion to approve the proposed request for quotes for building signage for the Iron Trail Motors Event Center with the addition of the vendor presenting the products that'll be used in the signage. What I did add is in red in the packet on the RFQ. We added in that samples would be provided if we chose to do an interview process with selected requestors. Doesn't have to be all of them, just the ones that we want to speak with, that they'd have to bring samples with them when they come.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support? Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
There was discussion regarding the Street and Alley Committee and their recommendations from their meeting on June 28th, 2022. We had discussion regarding parking issues at the salon located at 8th Street and 2nd Avenue South. It was moved and supported to move this discussion of parking at 8th Street South and 2nd Avenue to the council meeting today for further review.
Okay, thank you. This is Councilor Baraboo's issue. Councilor Baraboo?
Yeah, well, it's not actually totally mine, but Mr. Rosfit, our Public Works Director, has been down there and extensively looked at it along with myself. We looked at this. 2nd Avenue will not work. The lane that is closest to the going south is used as a turn lane to go west on 8th Street. So that isn't going to work to put up some kind of signage there. And the other in front is the same kind of a problem. If you get stuff too close to the intersection, they're turning off of 2nd Avenue onto 8th Street. There's just absolutely no way. There's so many rentals in that area. You can't take away rental spaces. So Public Works recommendation from Mr. Rosfit is not to do anything, leave it as is.
Okay, thank you. Is that your motion?
That's going to be my motion. They're just, when you go down there, as Steve is part of the committee, I don't know, you've been by there, I can't figure out any place to put anything there either because of the turn lane that goes on from Second Avenue South onto A Street, and it's used lots.
So your motion is? Yeah. I think in the face of a negative motion, maybe to take no action.
Okay, that's fine too.
Okay, that's the motion by Councilor Bearable to take no action regarding the parking request from May Street South and Second Avenue. Is there support for that?
For discussion.
Support by Councilor Johnson for discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Johnson.
And as I pointed out at the committee meeting, there is parking in front of the garage to the rear of that on their property, so that could be a solution since there's no city solution for them at this time.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported to take no action. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I will convey, I'll convey that to the,
Councilor Bearable.
I'll convey that to the owner, if that's okay with the rest of the committee.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bearable. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Matt Reed, SEH, our engineer of record, informed the council the proposed safety improvements at the intersection 12th Avenue South near Super One South. The proposed concept is to move the left lane over and place a concrete median in that location to make the current middle access lane as the left lane, and then have a shared through lane with a right turn lane. There's also concerns regarding making right turns going north, and discussion was held regarding seeking an easement from Super One South in order to allow semi-trucks to make the radius more accessible. It was moved and supported to approve putting into the proposed plan for the 12th Street South, that should be a 12th Avenue South intersection repairs to the 2023-2025 street project.
Okay, looking for council action.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Councilor Paulson to approve. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion, Mayor.
Support by Councilor Bearable for further discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, we need to do one other thing, and Matt brought this up. We need to put together before we actually put this into a formal plan action, we need to have discussion with Super One because we're looking at possibly not taking, but getting permission to use part of their property on the 17th Street and 12th Avenue corner there so the big trucks can have a bigger radius to come back up and go north to the lights. And that hasn't been approved by Super One to allow us to do that with their property. So we need more discussion, correct, Brett?
This motion just authorizes Matt to start putting it as part of the plans for that project. And we do need to meet with them also. They had expressed to us that when we are redoing 17th Street, they want to talk about their entrance on 17th Street. So we're going to meet with them anyway to discuss how we can help modify that a little bit to make their traffic flow
So
easier.
this is premature than the other portion I'm talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bearable. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
At the Street and Alley meeting, we did direct Jim Rosfit, Public Works Director, to review the request for the curb cuts at 1020 7th Avenue South and 401 4th Street South. Jim noted that the residents in this area, in these two areas, would be appropriate to have curb cuts. Thus, it was moved and supported to approve the request for the curb cuts at 1020 7th Avenue South and 401 4th Street South.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Friedlieb, supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed, motion carries.
The Street and Alley Committee had received a request from the United Methodist Church for more signage for loading zone on 9th Avenue South. After a discussion, it was moved and supported to send a letter to the United Methodist Church to obtain signage at their own cost to be able to place in the parking areas along 9th Avenue South when it is needed for them.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion?
Just one, Mayor.
Counselor Baraboo.
to add the word temporary in there because we don't want them putting permanent signage. So if we can just add the word temporary into that authorization, because they were supposed to be, from our discussion, removable signs just to add when they have large crowds at the church and not permanently put in the boulevards or sidewalk.
Yeah, I think that's intent of the recommendation moving forward for them, yes, thank you. Moved and supported, is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to recommend the resident at 1004 3rd Street South work with the HRA to see if they'd be able to assist with their parking request for a dedicated handicap space.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, support by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Matt Reed from SCH discussed with the council the potential funding that we have received from the 569 Army Corps of Engineer funds for the 2023-2025 street project. It was Matt's recommendation that we utilize those funds for 6th Avenue and 17th Street South, as if the city obtains street improvement bonds, state statute requires that we especially assess a minimum of the 20% of the project cost. The assessment is based on the total gross project cost, and the funding that we receive from the federal grant could be used to decrease the city general levy amount that is required to annually pay the bond. After a little bit of discussion, it was moved and supported to recommend that 6th Avenue and 17th Street South are the potential projects for the 569 Army Corps of Engineer funding, and to allow staff to begin the environmental review process through the Army Corps.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve by Counselor Paulson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Johnson. Counselor Barnzelli. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
At the Committee of the Whole meeting, we discussed a proposed ordinance for placement of private utilities in city right-of-ways. This is normally telecommunication-type utilities. It was moved and supported to add to the City Council agenda on July 12, 2022, for the first reading, the proposed ordinance, private utilities constructed in city right-of-way.
Thank you. And as we look at this, Brian, you've had an opportunity to review. Any issues with respect to this?
No major issues. There's, as I've looked through it, a little bit of stylistic stuff. The only suggestion that I would make that really isn't overly critical is under definitions where we incorporate some Minnesota rules by reference. We may want to just add the language as those rules may be updated from time to time, but otherwise, I think everything is in good order.
Okay, so you're fine with the proposed ordinance with that little addendum of language?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Counselor Baraboo?
I will move the first reading of the ordinance.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the first reading of the proposed private utilities constructed on city right-of-way ordinance. Is there support? Support by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson?
With the changes noted by the attorney.
Pardon?
With the changes noted by the attorney.
With the changes noted by the attorney, with the addendums. Thank you. Moved and supported with those addendums. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to move the helicopter ambulance intercept agreement to the council meeting on Tuesday, July 12, 2022 for more information. Deputy Chief Frederickson did send them more information for us on that matter.
Okay, looking for council action.
I will move the agreement.
Councilor Johnson moves to adopt the resolution approving the agreements with helicopter air ambulance intercept and support services with North Memorial. Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support for discussion, Mayor.
Support by Councilor Baraboo for discussion. Further discussion? Councilor Baraboo.
Yeah, we have, two services now that come to our hospital, air service, is that correct, Brett?
Correct.
So if the other service comes up with the same request, we need to look at that in the same vein as this one.
It is, there will be an agreement coming from the other service as well.
Okay, so
They
then
will
I'm okay with
Update
it.
their agreement, and this is
And
just
I'm
the first
okay,
one.
I don't want to be discriminatory between the two, because there's times when we end up with two buses up here at times. We're very back-to-back, so appreciate that. Thank you for the information.
And to just clarify, what we asked for at the committee, the whole meeting was we asked Deputy Chief Frederickson interim Fire Chief Frederickson, to bring to us the air care utilization for last year and this year to date. The answer was that both years is 21 times in 2021, and to date, as of July 8th, they were at 21 air care uses also.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Britt. Any further discussion, Councilor Beyondich?
Thank you. How often do these need to be signed? Are they updated yearly?
You know, periodically when something changes,
Okay,
the Medicare reimbursement rate for air care changed, not for anybody else.
In our favor.
all right. Thank you.
There will be intercept agreements coming, speaking of Medicare, for the ground ones. We have to redo all those with Babbitt, Tower. So those will be coming to you guys as well soon here.
And that's the only time they come is when there's a change?
A change or something we need to address.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to add the Rock Ridge Youth Hockey Association use agreement to the council agenda today, which is in your packet.
I'll move the agreement.
Councilor Paulson moves to approve the Rock Ridge Youth Hockey Association Facilities Use Agreement. Is there support?
Or
Support by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Here, Councilor Baraboo.
Yeah. Have we gone forward, I'm assuming we have with Brian and this with Youth Hockey, so they have looked at this agreement and have agreed to this agreement? Is that correct, from
Have
what
seen the
I
agreement.
understand?
Their board has not taken action yet because they're waiting for the council to make the final.
Waiting for us to make the, okay. So we're approving our portion of this right now
Correct.
until they tack onto it. Okay.
Correct, because
Then-
once they approve, then I have to send it to the state for
Okay, yeah,
review.
that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you. I have no objection to this.
Okay, thank you. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
And the final one is the facilities use agreement for the Iron Trail Motors Event Center for the ISD 2909 Rock Ridge Schools.
so moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion?
This goes along the same,
Councilor Baraboo.
yeah, sorry, Mayor. This goes along the same way as the first one, correct? But because the school board hasn't approved stuff, okay, then I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
No further items from that meeting.
Thank you, Britt. Item 9.2, the Committee of the Whole Personnel Meeting that was held today, this morning at 8:30, July 12th, 2022. Two items on the agenda. Britt?
Find that again. The first item was we had a great discussion regarding the job description for the fire chiefs. It was moved and supported to approve the proposed job description for the fire chiefs that was suggested by staff with suggested amendments for final approval. It's actually at the July 26, 2022 council meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
And the final item from that meeting, it was a motion to approve staff to write a letter to reject the unsolicited request from Essentia for the discussion of the City of Virginia ambulance license and reaffirm the city's commitment to staff and the city control of the license.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, and And I really want to emphasize to the staff who are listening that this was unsolicited by the city. And that's why I made the motion like that this morning, is that I really want them to know that, for me personally, this isn't even an option. So I really want them to know that this is an unsolicited, and we'll move nowhere with Essentia on this particular item.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. I have no further items.
Thank you very much, Britt. We'll move to item 10, Commission Liaison Reports. Is there any city councilor or any liaison commission report for the council meeting this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 11, Department Head Reports. We'll go around the room. Britt, any further information from the department head there?
I just want to point out, since Brian's not here, to tell everybody know that we did have to cancel Music in the Park today because of the rain. It will be held tomorrow at the same time.
Okay, movies in the park?
Music in the Park.
Music in the park, canceled tonight, come back tomorrow.
Like tomorrow. Music starts at 6.
We're ready to go. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Britt. Anything from our legal team?
Nothing from me, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Anything from you, Pam, with respect to elections or anything?
I guess registration for voting does end on July 19th, so if you need to register, you have until then to do that.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, anything further to offer at this time? Looking forward to your presentation in the future with respect to the budget, so thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 12, council reports. I'm sorry. Oh, Jody, sorry, I apologize. Should have been looking in. I say, what a great program you held today. That was, truck area was phenomenal. So please, welcome and thanks.
Well, I just actually came to tell you that next week on Tuesday, we have Kids for Kids chamber music concert on the library lawn, weather permitting, at 10:30. This one we can move inside if the weather doesn't play nice, but today it was fabulous, so we worked out really well. And then on July 21st, at the Farmers Market, we are having a Pause and Read event, and we are partnering with the Mesabi Humane Society, and you can come and make toys for the animals at the Humane Society, but also there should be enough stuff that you might be able to take one home for your own pet. But yeah, those are the next two most recent events, but if you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. But yes, we had a great event today. The weather held off. So thank you to all the city departments that brought us vehicles. We even had the Zamboni today, and yes, they did drive it over from the event center. So we had a postmaster truck, and he came and had stuff. The fire trucks were able to come with the ambulance. We had 2 buses. So it was, I think we had like 240-ish for story time and hit probably close to 300 for people that were at the event today. And for a bonus, if they hung around long enough, they got to see cement poured over at the construction right next door. So, and it was kids of all ages.
Yeah, it was a great event, and thank you for hosting that. I think I saw Councilor Freely there, and it really kind of, I just want to point out the fact that I don't know how they got the post office truck there, but that must have been circa 1938. I'm not really sure, but.
It was an awesome one.
Yeah, it was awesome. So thank you very much for that, Jody. Any questions from the council? Councilor Johnson.
I'm glad you mentioned the cement pour. That was the highlight of my little guy's day. And apparently they started pouring and everybody ran over there to try to see what was going on. So if we can do that again next year, let's do that.
Yeah, it was not just the little kids that went for the cement pour. It was also the ones that were the big kids. So.
Including my younger brother. All right.
That was not planned. It was just happened to be the day that they were doing it.
Oh, it was karma.
It was.
Thank you, Jody, very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, I will ask the council, I would like to put it on the next committee of the whole agenda, just some issues to talk about the future of the YMCA in Mountain Iron. I got several calls, particularly from board members, that's looking for the city of Virginia for some guidance and would like to participate in some discussion. So for the purpose of that, moving forward and in light of the YMCA's closing at the end of the month, that pool is so important to the community that maybe we can sit down and talk and have a little discussion about that. And in the interim, if we may, if it's possible to do so, I know this probably will have to be triggered by the city in which this family YMCA is in, which is Mountain Iron. So, but I think it warrants some kind of a discussion, and I'd like to invite some of the board members there and just have a little discussion at the next committee of the whole meeting. That we may do that, Britt. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else to come before the council before we adjourn? Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. I would like to publicly thank the Peralts and Mr. Holcomb. We were able to plant at the Marty Park with donated plants. So between a few of us, we were able to get in there and dig and thank the city for the soil that was brought over. We were able to spread that and get it planted. We're hoping to add more perennials to that as time goes on, but the folks at the senior center are taking care of it. They water it. They will be weeding it. So I really want to thank them for stepping up and taking that project on. And I just have one other comment. I was not able to attend the meeting on last Tuesday. However, I had the link to call in. And I'm not sure if other people are experiencing this, but poor Brett was getting my messages. I couldn't hear. I was trying to follow the meeting. I had COVID, so I was not able to attend in person. But I really missed a lot of what was being talked about. And I don't know if anything can be done about that sound system or how that's put out to the public. But if other people are having the frustrations that I had, it was very difficult to follow that meeting. Pardon?
We can take a look at it and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to make this motion, but I would like to move that we direct staff to begin the process of figuring out how are we going to manage the fitness equipment at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center and have them start working on that immediately.
Okay, thank you. A motion by Councilor Johnson to have staff work on some issues with respect to the management of the fitness center at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I will support this motion, but I would like to have council input as well. I want to have an actual robust discussion about where we feel the direction of those spaces needs to go. So I'd welcome that we'd all work on that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Councilor Paulson. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Any other items to come before the council before we adjourn? Councilor Johnson.
Yes, Mayor. It's been brought up twice. I want to bring it up a third time. It was brought up at the Street and Alleys Committee by Jim Rossfed at the Committee of the Whole, and I also want to bring it up tonight about the aging of our trees and the danger they are proposing and are posing, and that we are, as a TISI, going to need to have Parks and Rec and Public Works looking at them. This last week, on a beautiful, sunny, not breezy day, around about 12th Street South, half a tree fell for no apparent reason other than the building or the tree was old and it blocked the road for most of the day. And the staff took care of it. They barricaded it until they could get there the next day. But it wasn't during a windstorm. It's just a lot of the trees in our town are 50 to 100 years old, and we need to come to the place where we're going to have to take them down for safety reasons, and we're going to have to plan replacing them, and where are we going to replace them and what species. And I know that we've talked about looking for grants to do that. So it's coming. Trees are going to be getting cut down because they're unsafe at this point. So I wanted to make sure that was said again in a different venue for all the public to hear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. And the city has been cutting trees as they can over the course of the summer. I noticed there's a couple on 3rd Street South that got cut on 5th Avenue, so they are working toward that, and thank you for that information. So, anything else to come before the council before we adjourn? Seeing none, we will adjourn our council meeting tonight and reconvene at our next council meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, July 26th, 2022, 5:30, right here in the council chambers. Thank you, Mr. Eder, for coming and spending the time at the council meeting. It's nice to see somebody stay for the whole meeting and glean that information, so thank you for coming. Very good. That's probably a wise thing. No further discussion. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.